bookish friends, my name is Jackie and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be using my 2 TBR jars to help me pick out my August hopefuls. Alright, so I didn't get to all the books that I wanted to read in the month of July with my TBR picks. So I'm gonna do 2 picks from my prompt jar and then 2 picks from my title jar. That way, hopefully I will get to more of these in the month of August. Alright, so this is my TBR prompt jar. So I'm going to do some picks from this first. So let's go for the first one. I'm gonna close my eyes. Dig around in here. Okay, I think I have one. All right, so let's see what this one is. Let's open this one up and it says a book that has magic in it. Okay, so this is gonna be some sort of fantasy pick. So I'm gonna try to give myself an audiobook option and then a physical book option. I have probably quite a few books that have magic in them, so I won't show you all the ones that fit this prompt, but I'll show you the ones that I might be interested in reading in the month of August. All right, so my first option is The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is one that I've had on my TBR for quite a while. I've had a physical copy of this book since like 2021 or 2022, and I'm really excited for it. It's from the author of Mexican Gothic. It's a charming tale of love and betrayal set in a world where scandal is a razor-sharp weapon. It says that they are the beautiful ones, Loisel's most notable socialites, and this spring it's Nina's chance to join their ranks, courtesy of a well-connected cousin. But the grand season has already begun and her debut has gone awry. She struggles to control her telekinesis powers, and her neighbors call her the Witch of Old House. The manifestation of her powers has led to a lot of gossip. So when an entertainer arrives in town, she is dazzled, and he is also telekinetic just like her, and he has traveled the world performing his talents for his audiences. He sees Nina not as a witch, but ripe with potential to master her power under his tutelage, and with his help, her talent blooms, as does her love for him. But great romances are for fairy tales, and he's hiding a truth from Nina and himself that threatens to end their courtship. So I think this is set in like Regency time or somewhere in the past, so I'm really interested in that. It's like a historical fantasy and she has these like telekinetic powers, which sounds so fascinating. I've been meaning to dive into Silvia Moreno Garcia's works, and I think that this could be a perfect book to fulfill this prompt because it has a touch of magic in it without being a lot that's going to overwhelm me, so it could be a good option to read in August. The other physical book option that I have for my TBR is We Could Be Magic by Marissa Meyer, and this is illustrated by Joelle Murray. So this is a graphic novel. It'll be a shorter read for me, so I think this could also be a good option to pick up. And it says that when Tabitha Laurie was growing up, a visit to Summerland saved her belief in true love even as her parents' marriage is falling apart. She has landed her dream job at the theme park's prestigious summer program, and she can make magical memories for others just like her. All she has to do is audition for one of the coveted princess roles and her dreams will soon come true. However, there's a problem that the heroines and heroes at Summerland are thin, and no matter how much Tabby lives for the magic, she just doesn't fit the park's idea of a princess. So she's able to get a job working at a food stand instead, and she needs the support of her friends, a crush, and a lot of magic if she's going to get her own happily ever after without getting fired in the process. So it sounds like a very cute read. It's giving me a little bit of like Disney theme park vibes. I am excited for this one. I really hope that this main character gets to go on a really fun journey and fulfill her dreams of being a princess. Like, I think that this could be really cute. And since it's a graphic novel, it's one that I can definitely fly through, so I am excited about this. This is a top contending choice, but I'm really down for either of these 2 books. And then I have one more choice that I will share with you, and that is my audiobook pick. All right, so the last option that I wanted to give myself is a gothic fantasy option. It's an audiobook that I have access to, and it has been on a few of my TBRs before, and that is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I've heard nothing but good things about her books, although I have heard a little bit more mixed reviews on The Night and the Moth than some of her other series. However, I'm still open to trying it. I did pick it up in the month of May or June and then put it down because I wasn't really engaged with the story, so it might just mean that I have to try this one physically or give the audiobook another go. And it is basically a story that follows a young prophetess named Sybil who's forced to seek help from a skeptical knight when her fellow diviners start disappearing. She's raised in a cathedral as a diviner, so this is someone that receives visions from omens or mysterious figures through ritual drowning, and when her sisters vanish, she's turned over to a heretical knight, and they have to embark on a quest to figure out the truth about these these omens and their sister's disappearances. So it sounds like it's a quest fantasy story. There's a lot of conspiracy going on in here. This is definitely going to be a little bit more of an intense read for me because there's a big magic system involved in here, but I am open to trying it out. And it seems like it has a lot of themes of power, identity, and faith being discussed in this one. So I am really excited about this because I've heard nothing about good things about Rachel Gillig's writing in the past. So let me know which of these 3 options you want me to try out and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love your help to make a decision on this because I sometimes have just such a hard time committing to one of these, which I think was part of the reason why I wasn't able to get to all my July TBR picks. There was just so many choices, and then I ended up mood reading other things because I was overwhelmed. Alright, so now it's time for me to pick another prompt from this TBR jar. I'm only picking 2 this time because last time I picked 3, and with the other books that I already have on my TBR, I just don't think it's going to be possible for me to read 3 of these. So without further ado, let's dive in and look for another one. I close my eyes again. Okay, I think I have one. A book with a flower on the cover. Okay, so I'm gonna have to scour my shelves, and I probably also have some audiobook options for this as well. So I'm gonna give myself like a couple of physical options and an audiobook option as well to be safe. I think that'll be good, and then you guys can help me pick which one I should read. So as I was looking at my physical TBR shelves and also at my audiobook shelves, I realized I don't have that many books with flowers on the cover, but I did manage to find a few options for myself that I will share with you guys. So the first option is a YA novel called Saints and Misfits by S.K. Ali. This is also perfect to fit in with the August theme month that Maria Andrea from Books and Bocadillos is doing, so I'm kind of leaning towards this option if I get around to it and have a chance to pick it up. So it says, there are 3 kinds of people in my life. Saints, those special people moving the world forward. Sometimes you gaze right through them, or at least I do, and they're in your face so much you can't often see them. Misfits, people who don't belong like me, the way I don't fit into dad's brand new family, or the leftover one composed of mom and my older brother. Also, there's Jeremy and me, misfits. And then monsters. Monsters wearing saint masks like in Flannery O'Connor's stories. Like the monster at my mosque. People think he's wholly untouchable, but nobody has seen underneath the mask except for me. This sounds like a very intense story. It seems like it's going to talk about the Muslim community in this one and dive into religion in it. I'm really curious to see how this one plays out. It sounds like it might be a little bit more of a coming of age story too, but I don't really know too much more beyond that, except for that it's a deeply powerful and moving story that a lot of people have really enjoyed. My next option is Ties That Tether by Jane Igaro. This is a romance novel about Azir, who is a Nigerian woman, and she promises her dying father that she's going to marry a Nigerian man and uphold their culture, but she finds herself being drawn to Raphael, who is a white man, and after a one-night stand, it turns into something more serious. So explores a lot of conflict between Azir's love for Raphael and her commitment to her family's expectations and her Nigerian heritage. I think this is a story that's going to split her between wanting to fit in with her Nigerian family, but also fulfill her own personal desires. And I think that is really interesting. The kind of cultural clash that happens here and the split between cultures is something that I can relate to, even though I'm not of Nigerian descent myself, but I am interested in seeing how this plays out. It sounds like a fun romance story. The only thing is I don't know how much of a romance mood I'm in right now currently, so I don't know if I'll be picking this one up, but it does sound really fascinating, and it's definitely one that's on my radar for whenever I want to pick up another romance. My last option is Wahala by Nikki May, and I know what you're saying, this cover does not have flowers on it, but the audiobook copy of it that I have does have flowers on it, and I think this might be the one that I end up picking up because I have the option to read this physically or the audio or do a tandem read if I'm interested, and I think that just offers me the most flexibility for all of these options, so it might be the one that I end up picking up. It says it's an indecisive and exhilarating debut novel following 3 Anglo-Nigerian best friends and their lethally glamorous 4th woman who infiltrates their group. It's the most unforgettable girl group since Carrie, Samantha, Charlotte, and Miranda. It says that one of the main characters wants to have a happily ever after and 2.2 kids. She's dating a man and wants him to be the one, perfect like her dead father, and her friends think he's just another in a long line of dodgy Nigerian boyfriends. Boo has everything that the first friend wants, a kind husband and a gorgeous child, but she's frustrated and unfulfilled and plagued by guilt and desperate to remember who she used to be. And then we have Simi, who is the golden one with the perfect lifestyle. No one knows that she's crippled by imposter syndrome and tempted to pack it all in every time her boss mentions her urban vibe. Her husband thinks that they're trying for a baby, but she is not. And then they have a new addition, a charismatic and high-flying character named Isabel, who explodes into the group. And at first it seems like she's bringing out the best in each of the women, but the more that Isabel intervenes, the more Wahala, or trouble, starts to show up in their lives. And the close friendship between Simi and Boo and Ronki starts to crack. So So it's a modern take on friendship, ambition, culture, and betrayal. This sounds really interesting. It sounds like there might be some thriller aspects to this, and I'm curious to see how the new edition of Isabel kind of affects the relationship dynamics in this. I love that all the women have secrets that they're keeping from their other friends, and that's going to affect the dynamic. I always think it's so interesting to read stories about families or friends that have hidden secrets and they have like that dynamic at play. This reminds me a little bit of Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo, except instead of a group of sisters, it's a group of friends. So I'm excited to dive into this one. I think this is the one that I might end up picking up, but if you guys have thoughts on which of these I should read, please let me know in the comments below. Alright, and now it's time to pick two titles from this jar. I'm gonna be picking 2 titles out of this, and then I'm gonna be looking for them on my shelves. And these are ones that I'm definitely going to try to prioritize. This is to help me read through my physical TBR, hopefully a little faster. So time to dive in for the first one. Okay, I'm gonna dive in deep. There's a lot of titles in here. I think I have one. Okay, so it says Shoulder Season by Christina Clancy. So I'm gonna go look for that on my shelves, and then I'll tell you a little bit about it. Alright, so here it is. This is the book, and it says City of Girls meets Daisy Jones and the Six with a dash of Dirty Dancing. It's a dazzling portrait of young women coming into their own through the youthful allure of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and what we lose and gain when we leave home. It seems that it's set in the small town of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, in an unlikely location for a Playboy resort, but in the winter of 1981, it's where Sherry Taylor, a 19-year-old who's newly orphaned, goes to find herself and become part of the glamorous piece of history. Life as a bunny gives her an education in the joys of sisterhood, the thrill of financial independence, and the magic of first love. It has intoxicating highs and dangerous lows of life on the edge. But as spring gives way to summer, she finds herself caught up in a romantic triangle, and the tragedy that ensues will haunt her for the next 40 years. It's a story of what happens when small town life is sprinkled with stardust in a sexy, evocative tale drenched in longing and desire that captures a fleeting moment in American history. This sounds really intriguing. I've had this one on my TBR for years as well, so I'm hoping to really get to this one. I'm curious to see how the story kind of plays out and what the consequences are going to be of her taking on this like Playboy lifestyle that is going to happen in here. It is set in the 1980s, so I think that's technically historical fiction, but it's so recent that it still feels like contemporary novel, and I'm just curious to see how this one will play out. I don't know how I will feel about this, but I'm excited to give it a go. Alright, so it's time to pick out one more title from this title jar, so let me dig around in there. Okay, let's see. Let's grab one from the bottom. I have one now. Okay, so the book is Almost There, Almost Not by Linda Urban. So let me find this on my shelves and then I'll show you what the book is. All right, so this is the book. I think this is a middle grade novel, and it says that California has been dropped off yet again with an unsuspecting relative. This time it's her eccentric great aunt, Monica, who is a woman that she has never met. Aunt Monica has no idea what to do with an 11-year-old, so she puts California to work researching their ancestor, the once famous etiquette expert, Eleanor Fontaine. California soon discovers that her great-great-great aunt Eleanor is not exactly alive and well, but a ghost, and a sensitive one at that. The Grande Dame bursts into a cloud of dust whenever she loses her composure, which happens quite often. Still, an unexpected four-legged friend and some old-fashioned letter writing makes this very strange situation one that California can handle. Just as she's starting to feel like she's found a place for herself, her life turns upside down once again, and this time she has some friends that are almost by her side. And it says that family comes in all shapes and sizes, especially when some of them are ghosts. This sounds really cool. I think that this is going to maybe also have some magical aspects to it. You can kind of see like the ghost animal on the cover here, so maybe this will also fit that prompt too if I need another option for it. And I'm excited to dive into this. I've had this on my TBR for ages as well, so hopefully I'll get around to reading this one. I'm really interested in diving into some more middle grade and YA stories, especially because they're not ones that I often prioritize, so hopefully this will be one that I end up getting to. Alright, so another one that I have on my August TBR is a book that I'm going to be buddy reading this month, and this is Moby Dick by Herman Melville. I have a friend who has been really obsessed with Moby Dick for years. She did a lot of like graduate and undergraduate studies on this book, I believe, and I'm excited to finally buddy read this with her. I know she's gonna have a lot of insight in the reading process, and I can't wait to dive into this and really dissect it. I'm definitely gonna be taking my time and annotating this copy, so I'm excited to just dive into this one, and I will finally be reading one of her favorite books of all time, so excited to get around to this. So I got the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition. This is what the cover looks like here. And then this is what the back cover looks like. It's absolutely stunning and it's got some really thick pages, so I think that it'll be good for writing in the margins. This copy also has this like illustration on the covers. Let me show you. So it's got like this illustration on the front flap, and then on the back flap it has like a different one. So it's got some really interesting illustrations there, which I think make it quite unique. Also, I think that most people will be familiar with the summary of what the story is, but in case you aren't, Moby Dick follows this whaling ship that is hunting whales, and they're in particular looking for this really massive whale called Moby Dick, and it's following the obsession of this captain named Captain Ahab, who he has made it his life's ambition to hunt down this massive whale, and it explores a lot of themes of obsession, revenge, and just the nature of good and evil. So that's kind of a basic premise of this. If you haven't read it yet, you definitely should join in and read with us if you're interested. I think it might be an enjoyable read, and I think that reading it as a group will be really fun. So anyone is welcome to join us for this buddy read this month if you're interested. If you're interested in joining us for Moby Dick, I'm going to be trying to do some reading sprints on here and also on Instagram. So follow me over there at Reading Wordsmith as well, and also follow at get.literature over there. I'll leave her linked in the description below. She's only on Instagram, so we'll be doing a live discussion over there, but I'll also be uploading some content about this book over here. I will also try my best to do a reading vlog dedicated to reading Moby Dick because I think that would be interesting and could spark a lot of conversation. So join in for all the fun that we're going to have with this book. Another buddy read I'm doing in the month of August, I'm going to be doing it with Isabel from Isabel Reads. So it is going to be For the Family Experiment by John Mars. This is a dystopian thriller that's set in a future where the world is overpopulated and economic hardship has made starting a family difficult. So it revolves around a reality TV show where couples raise virtual children in the metaverse, and they compete for a chance to keep either their virtual child or receive funding to start a real world family. And it's going to explore a lot of themes of virtual parenthood, AI, and societal pressures of a world where real families are increasingly unattainable. So this sounds really intriguing. I am curious to see what the discussion of AI is going to be in this one, and I always think these books can be a little bit unnerving but intriguing nonetheless. So I'm excited to dive into this one. As of when I'm recording this video, we're actually going to be starting the book tonight. So join us for the reading sprints. If you missed it, you can definitely still check it out. It'll be on my channel still, so I will link it in the description down below as well. And then we're going to be doing another reading sprint on Isabel's channel a little bit later into the month of August. And then in the first week of September, we'll be doing a live discussion on one of our channels, just sharing all of our overall thoughts. So if you're interested, join in on this buddy reading process with us. I'm so excited to dive into this, and I hope that you'll join us. Another book that I'm going to be reading this month of August, actually this very first week I've been starting to work on it. It's called Miss Exit by Indy Sparks, and I'm going to be sharing some more about this on my page very soon. But it says, let's get a few things straight. I'm not a runaway bride, nor am I a jilted bride. It's impossible for me to be any kind of bride since my ex-fiance called off our engagement the day after our wedding planner mailed our invitations. I didn't run away from the ceremony, and I wasn't left at the altar. I'm a non-bride. The only things I'm running away from are sympathetic smiles and back pats from people back home who suddenly have decided to treat me like I have a terminal illness. Permanently single? Sign me up. The last thing I needed after a 7-hour drive across Texas was some wannabe cowboy in his big black pickup truck to make me miss my exit. Correction, the last thing I needed was to make it to my rented duplex half an hour after the movers had given up on me and unloaded all my stuff onto the driveway. No, that's not right either. The last thing that I needed was to discover that the road raging idiot who should have his license revoked for reckless driving is my new neighbor, and we share a fence and a bedroom wall. I never needed to know that he sits on his back patio wearing nothing but a pair of black boxer briefs while he drinks his morning coffee, also black. What I'm saying is we're entirely too close for comfort, and I am a non-simp for my neighbor, no matter how many times he fixes something I break. So this sounds like a really fun contemporary novella, and it's got this failed marriage kind of trope going on in it, and I'm excited to dive into this one. I think it'll be one that I can just absolutely fly through. It's under 200 pages, so it should make it a very quick read, and I think that it'll be just a really fun, exciting one. I am really curious to see how this dynamic is going to develop between our main character and her neighbor, especially because they seem to have a little bit of tension at the beginning of this relationship. So I'm curious to see how it's going to develop from there and how the story will end. All right, the last book that I have to talk about is Vera by Carol Edgarian. This is another carryover from the month of July, and I actually started this during my historical fiction readathon. I didn't end up getting around to finishing it then, but I am hoping to finish it in the month of August. And it follows Vera, who is a 15-year-old girl, and she's caught between two worlds. So she's caught between between the world of her biological mother's life, who runs a brothel, and she is a very renowned madam, and then also the life that she has with her adoptive mother and sister. And it's set in the backdrop of San Francisco in the early 1900s. I believe it is 1906. So this is right before the Great Fire and the earthquake that really shakes San Francisco to its core happened. And it's going to deal with a lot of the fallout and aftermath of that. So her life is going to change drastically in this one. I haven't gotten around to the natural disaster part of the book yet, but I am excited to get there. I'm still at about page 70 of this out of like 300, but I'm hoping to finish it very soon and share all my thoughts on this with you guys in my next wrap up. All right, so those are all the books that I'm hoping to read in the month of August. Once again, these are just August hopefuls, so I'm not going to necessarily stick to all of these. I might end up deviating from this list a little bit or not getting to all these titles, and that's completely fine. I'm okay with that. But I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Which of these books do you think I should read? Especially for the prompt jar options, which of them do you think I would like best, or which ones would you like to hear my thoughts on? I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. And of course, if you like this video, give it a like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate each and every one of you, and wherever you are in the world, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, I hope that you're doing well, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye!